you guys go.
Alrighty, good afternoon and welcome back. We are Group 8. We are the Robotic Snowblower. My name is Zachary King.
I'm Jason Montemuro.
I'm Cole Hefner.
I'm Tyler Weatherby, and then our advisor for the project is Dr. Greiner. So the problem that we wanted to solve was with snow removal techniques, mainly a snowblower. It is a very dangerous work that needs to be done because it's out in the cold and you're removing snow, so when you're using it, ice will build up underneath, which will cause slipping, and injuries will occur from that. Then also it's very strenuous because it's outside in the cold, so it takes a lot of endurance and stamina to do, so it's a little difficult for older people. And then also with how long it takes away time from your family or other things that you could be doing. So our project solution was that we were going to build a snowblower that is fully autonomous. So you just press a button and it runs throughout the snowstorm. So it'll be able to remove the snow from the driveway without you having to touch it. You just turn it on, it goes, and then without you being out there, it'll prevent injuries from manual labor because you won't be out there on the ice. And then you'll be able to stay inside your house more comfortable and do other things that you can be doing instead of removing snow from your driveway.
So here's our basic schedule. The total project timeline will take 176 days, which is the total time for the 2 semesters. The greatest part of it is 123 days, which that includes research and design and modeling and programming. Currently, we have completed the research, design, and most of the modeling, and we will be working on programming in our next step.
So here we have the design for the snowblower. We had the 17-inch snapper snowblower that we ended up taking apart to get a better look at the inside to see where we could mount stuff and take measurements for the frame to see the area that we had to work with to place all of the systems that we needed. So we got this halfway through the semester, so we started taking measurements so we could start designing all of our systems to fit inside of the snowblower. So we removed the frame and then took all the measurements and started modeling it. And then here's the back view, because in the back is where most of the stuff is located, like the motor system. And then the inlet adjustment system is the red, green, and yellow parts. And then at the top with the blue and the white, it's the shoot angle adjustment system.
Okay, so when we set out to do our project, we were governed by the typical 2-car driveway, which is about 20 by 30 feet, about 600 square feet. We figured we would give ourselves about 100 square feet to play with, so 700 square feet is what we chose. And the snowblower must remove up to 6 inches of snow throughout a snowstorm in case you were to start it when there was already snow on the ground. It must use a modified snowblower that we acquired, the 17-inch, which is about a consumer level snowblower. And it will use a guided system through a pre-programmed path. And in terms of safety, it'll have optical avoidance sensors in the front to stop it in the instance of a car parked in front of it or something along those lines. And emergency kill switch, and then the drive system itself, the snowblower, has a 3 horsepower motor, and it will use that to power the auger. And then on top of that, we will have 2 motors, 2 24-volt motors, which will control the propulsion of the snowblower. And then here's our motor module, the 2 24-volt amp flow motors. It's going to use a belt drive system geared with a 10-to-1 ratio in order to slow it down because our goal speed is around 2 miles an hour. And this is all in one unit placed right behind the chute, and the motor, gearbox, and then the wheels are attached to the sides.
So next we come to our height adjustment system. So the problem we're trying to solve here is, say you're on sidewalks and driveways, you have inconsistency in levels. So when you're pushing a snowblower and you hit a bump, you basically just pick it up and move over the bump. So what we're solving here, since we don't have a human operator, we need to have a system to raise the inlet level just so it can get up and over those bumps. Our solution here is to use a linear actuator connected to a mechanism that uses mechanical advantage through a lever to raise the inlet up to get over the bump and then to retract back down and continue blow. And as you can see, it is located in front of the motors and just behind the inlet chute. Here we have the chute rotation system. So the problem here was as you're blowing your snow, when the robot turns around, we don't want the snow to be blown back onto the path that it was just at, say if it was stuck at a constant angle. So we need to have a system to rotate the chute back and forth as it makes its passes. The way we're doing that here is using a tooth belt with 2 gears, one attached to the silver piece, which is where the stock chute attachment will interface with, which will slide on top of the blue piece, which is actually going to be mounted straight onto our existing chute face, and will be driven by a stepper motor with an encoder for position.
So for the location and actually programming the path and everything, we're going to be using a MarvelMind navigation system. It will consist of a modem, 1 mobile receiver, and 4 stationary beacons. They operate by sending ultrasonic pulses back and forth, and then through the time it takes to send and receive those signals, it will calculate the distance between all of the beacons. And then the mobile receiver will be placed on our snowblower, and it will be able to triangulate the location of the snowblower based on all the other beacons. We can place the beacons over 30 meters apart, so there will be plenty of coverage for your standard driveway. And the big reason we're using this system is it's plus or minus 2 centimeter precision, which is very important on a smaller driveway, whereas your standard GPS is maybe a couple of yards accurate. And this system will send XY coordinates to our Arduino, which we can then use for storing our path for later use. So for the programming and control, we're going to use an Arduino Mega 2560. We're going to have 3 main modes that the snowblower will operate in. One that's just a joystick control, so if you're moving it from outside to storage, or just want to manually drive it around to blow snow, we'll have a little remote control that you can control the speed and direction, as well as the chute rotation and the height adjustment to get it up over bumps. We're going to have a learn mode that uses that joystick control and will memorize the path you're going for later use. And then we'll also have an autonomous mode where the snowblower will fully autonomously go along the pre-programmed path and clear your driveway of snow. There's 3 main items to control: the drive motors, the chute rotation, and the front height adjustment. And then it will also, for safety features, be able to have an emergency shutoff to kill both the gas engine and all the other motors in case anything comes in its way. So for pre-programming, how it's going to work is we're going to use a joystick control, like we said before, to drive the snowblower along the path you would like it to follow. And you can do this ideally sometime maybe the end of fall while it's still nice outside. And then you will have to leave the beacons in their respective places so that the XY coordinates you're getting all throughout the winter will remain consistent. And then whenever you get a snowstorm, you can just hit it to go and it will navigate through. And as it goes, it will record the location, the direction of the chute, and the height at each point so that it can then later change the rotation and height as it goes. Since the basics of how our autonomous mode will work, the Arduino in the middle there will talk with the MarvelMind navigation system, which will give it the XY coordinates. Once it finds its position, it will check that against the goal location and see if it's where it needs to be or not. And then, if necessary, it will adjust the chute and height. And then it will drive in the direction of the next point it needs to get to.
So here are some more specifics on the motors we chose. They're AmpFlow E30 150 motors. We chose these for a couple of reasons. One being there was already one available to us from the department from a previous project. Another reason is they're a small and compact size, fit into the tight space that we needed it to. They also had adequate output. It's rated at a horsepower max, which fits also within the constraints of the motor controller, which we got from the department. And they're low cost, because they're around $80 a piece. And then here's our motor controller. It's a Robo EQ. It has a 40 volt max, which is within the 24 volts that we are looking for, as well as a 60 amp max, and those numbers are per channel. And our motors under max load should draw about 31 amps, we figured, so well within the constraints of our motor controller.
And then here's our bill of materials and our cost analysis for the project so far. So the retail cost is the cost of the project if we had to buy everything without factoring in donations or what has been in inventory from previous senior projects, then the price paid is what our budget is now, what we would have to put out. So then the price paid is $492 because main stuff, we got the snowblower donated to us by Jason's dad, and then the Marble Mine navigation system and the robot motor controller were already here from previous senior projects, and then the material cost and miscellaneous parts is like a variable cost. We just estimate it to be higher because we don't know like if we might like forget something later, or like if we need to manufacture anything, like what the cost for that would be. So the budget could go up or down depending on what we still need.
So basically, just a little review of kind of what we're doing to our project. Basically, just to be clear, we are not touching the parts that drive the auger. So the gasoline engine will still drive the auger separate from our system. What we're adding are motors to have it move autonomously along with a guidance system, a height adjustment system, and a chute rotation system. And that is it for our presentation. Do you have any questions?
Can you go to your design, please? So which direction is it moving?
It is moving forward. So if you look to, so right here is the back. So that big black piece, that's the inlet chute to the like where the snow will go into and pull it out.
Okay, so the blades are still contacting the snow.
Yes.
I was concerned with the way you had it drawn. I think it was somehow back.
Yeah, there's no modification from like the height adjustment system forward. It's like a traditional snowblower.
But will your height detection system still work though? If the housing with the blade will hit something. It looks like that yellow piece is your height detection, and that's further back.
It doesn't necessarily detect it. The person controlling it as they're running like the dry run, so to speak, for it to learn that, there would be a button on the controller to lift it, so they would prematurely lift it, go over that, and then like lower it. You know what I mean? It doesn't like detect the crash.
It's not a sensor.
Yeah, it doesn't sense
It's just to
anything.
lift it's a mechanism to lift the front.
Yeah.
So everything is pre-programmed, including the height.
Yes.
Yes. Aside from like the obstacle avoidance sensors, just to like stop it in case of something were to come in front of it.
All right.
How are the beacons powered?
The beacons, they have rechargeable batteries inside of them. So you'll be able to take like a battery pack, connect it up with USB and charge them.
Those beacons, they're ultrasonics, right?
Yeah.
How will the ultrasonics work through snow? Am I gonna have to, when I set this up the night before the big blizzard, and have it work through 3 feet of snow?
We're gonna
Or
like
I
print.
have to come out that morning?
We're gonna design like a house
Well-
for that to try to keep them out of the elements.
So
And
ideally, you do it in the fall time. You go out and set it all up. So like similar to like marking a driveway for like a plow. You go out and mark it, and then you would just leave them there for the entire season. And as need be, it would go out.
And you'd probably want to set it up above how high the snow would be so that you don't have 6 inches of snow blocking the path.
Well, that's kind of the question then is this meant to, how much snow can this handle?
Our goal is for it to like clear about 6 inches of snow if you were to start it like from that initial part. Like worst case scenario, you start it when there's already 6 inches of snow on the ground. Ideally, you have it running as soon as there's like a 1 or 2 inches just to keep it clear and it can continuously run.
Okay, so this is kind of how long those batteries last?
We're looking
In
to
the snowblower?
the snowblower itself is gas powered for the auger, but the drive motors are electric. We're looking towards like an 8S 4P battery at like the 20, puts out about 28 volts, and that's a 10 amp hour battery. So our goal is to have like 30 minutes of continuous runtime, and through testing we can either gauge whether we need a larger battery or a smaller battery based on that. Go ahead, you had your hand up for a while.
So, I mean, you're gonna set up in the fall, but how are you gonna account for wheel slippage on icy and?
That's the goal of the positioning system, is to constantly know where it is, and it will like give input based on that. Like if it senses it's not going anywhere, it's not gonna like stop. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
like
that pretty much it.
if that makes
It's
sense.
gonna want to navigate to the next point. So if the wheels are slipping and it's not moving, it's not just gonna assume it's at that point. It's gonna keep attempting to get to
If
that
it's moving
point.
like slower towards that point, it will just keep going until it reaches there. Yeah.
What happens if it gets stuck on ice? I mean, you're making the assumption that it can avoid the ice, but if it finds itself on that ice, how will it correct itself? Sometimes when you're on ice, you can't go forward or back without slipping. So how would this unit know
That's nothing we've worked with yet, but we'll have to try and think of a way to overcome that issue. Dr. Duke?
Why do you need two motors?
We figured it would be easier for control so
you're
that
using a
we can.
differential speed to control heavy. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so if we want to turn left, we can power the right
that's
motor
what you're
more.
using a differential speed to control the heavy.
Yeah.
If that's the case, like I said, this thing is powered by gas and you really don't need the motor to, I mean, why would you need two motors to use? You can use one motor to control the heavy, just use a mechanical design to control the heavy.
We found that the gas motor isn't really up to par with like propelling it as well, because that's where we came up with the size for the motors. They traditionally add about 2 horsepower to make a snowblower self-propelled, because ours is like a smaller consumer one. You know what I mean? I don't think the motor would be powerful enough to propel it as well as run the auger.
So you still want to use those two motors to give you some propulsion.
Yeah, that's it.
Our snowblower we have
It's not-
was completely manually pushed.
Yeah, it's
It
not
didn't
self-propelled.
the gas motor was not hooked up to the wheels at all. So we had to add some adjustments.
If you go back to your DC motor, could you answer me like what's the slowest speed that this motor is supposed to be operated at? What's the slowest speed?
Our end goal is around like 2 miles an hour, but we looked a lot at the past project, the lawnmower project, and their gear ratio, and we're going like another step slower. So like through testing different gear ratios.
So you need gears, right? That's what I'm
Yeah, it's a belt
The motor
driven.
itself would be way too fast.
Yeah. If you go to the motor module slide, it's a belt driven system right there, and it uses a 10-to-1 ratio. Yeah. Sure.
How do you guys plan on evaluating the safety aspects of this project? So like make it more neighbor friendly, I guess. Not like having kids jump on.
Our 2 safety systems, we're gonna have like a very visible emergency shut-off switch that are gonna shut off not only like the propulsion system, but the like gas motor itself, as well as sensors in the front of it, and like in the disclaimer that the user should be like monitoring it from inside. You know what I mean?
So it's not fully automated by itself, basically. It has to have like
It is.
somebody to monitor it. You know.
They don't need to do anything though. Like they just visually watch it to make sure like something else doesn't happen, but it is autonomous.